Good morning, friends. Welcome to Gyan channel. In today's topic, we will be discussing about media and culture. We will be covering about perspectives and phenomena of cultural imperialism, media and representation of minorities, media and cultural integration versus cultural disintegration, and media content in multi-ethnic societies. So let's begin the class. Firstly, we discuss about culture. Culture is a word for the way of life of groups of people, meaning the way they do things, excellence of taste in the fine arts and humanities, also known as high culture. Culture is the characteristics of knowledge of a particular group of people, encompassing language, religion, cuisine, social habits, music, and arts. The word culture derives from a French term which is in turn derives from the Latin colere, which means to tend to the earth and grow, or cultivation and nurture. Examples of cultures is customs, laws, dress, architectural style, social standards, religious beliefs, traditions, and so on. Let's discuss about media culture. Media culture refers to the culture created under the influence of mass media. The concept of media culture infers its impact on society's information consumption and intellectual guidance. Media culture tends to be a major factor in the formation of mainstream culture since it affects society's opinions, values, tastes, attitudes, and informational availability. Role of media in culture. The role of media in the transmission of culture. Study seeks to introduce new media models. Firstly, study clearly illustrates the role of mass media in the transmission of cultural messages. Secondly, helps to explain variation in the reception and employment of cultural messages by members of the same culture. Now let's discuss about cultural imperialism. Cultural imperialism was around long before the United States became a world power. In its broadest strokes, imperialism describes the ways that one nation asserts its power over another. Just as Imperial Britain economically ruled the American colonies, so did Britain strongly influence the culture of the colonies. Today, cultural imperialism tends to describe the United States' role as a cultural superpower throughout the world. American movie studios are generally much more successful than their foreign counterparts, not only because of the business models but also because the concept of Hollywood has become one of the modern worldwide movie businesses defining traits. Multinational non governmental corporations can now derive global culture. This is neither entirely good nor entirely bad. On one hand, foreign cultural institutions can adopt successful American business models, and corporations are largely willing to do whatever makes them the most money to a particular market, whether that means giving local people a shot at making movie or making multicultural films such as 2008's Slumdog Millionaire. However, cultural imperialism has potential negative effects as well, from a spread of Western ideas of beauty to the possible decline of local cultures around the world. Cultural imperialism can have a quick and devastating effect. Let's discuss about cultural hegemony. To begin discussing the topic of cultural imperialism, it is important to look at the ideas of one of its founding theorists, Antonio Gramsci. Strongly influenced by the theories of and writings of Karl Marx, Italian philosopher and critic, Gramsci originated the idea of cultural hegemony to describe the power of one group over another. Unlike Marx, who believed that the workers of the world would eventually unite and overthrow capitalism, Gramsci instead argued that culture and the media exert such a powerful influence on society that they can actually influence workers to buy into a system that is not economically advantageous to them. This argument that media can influence culture and politics is typified in the notion of the American dream. Marx's idea remained at the heart of Gramsci's beliefs. According to Gramsci's notion, the hegemons of capitalism, those who control the capital, can assert economic power, while the hegemons of culture can assert cultural power. This concept of culture is rooted in Marxist class struggle, in which one group is dominated by another and conflict arises. Gramsci's concept of cultural hegemony is pertinent in the modern day not because of the likelihood of a local property owning class oppressing the poor, but because of concern that rising globalization will permit one culture to so completely assert its power that it drives out all competitors. Let's discuss about media and representation of minorities. What does media representation mean? It can mean everything to people of color who want to see accurate depictions of the cultures and communities that mean everything to them. Oxford reference defines representation as depicting or making present something which is absent. They can be people, places, events, or abstractions in a different form. It's important to understand the media representation of ethnic minorities isn't new and isn't perfect. While portrayals of ethnically diverse characters in various media forms have improved greatly, there is still room for growth and change. One research article published in 2015 titled Documenting Portrayals of Race or Ethnicity on Prime-time television over a 20-year span and their association with national level racial oblique ethnic attitudes looks at media representation of ethnic minorities. The authors analyzed the 345 most viewed US television shows within 12 separate television seasons spanning the years 1987 to 2009. The article covers the fluctuation of representation of each ethnic group throughout the sample 22 years. It lists whites at their peak representation, comprising 88% of the regular characters in the highest viewed primetime shows. African American character portrayals followed at 21.6% at their peak. The article showed Latinos and Asians being grossly underrepresented on TV. At their highest representation levels on television, Latino characters accounted for 3% and Asian characters 2.8%. According to the article, Native Americans were the most severely underrepresented with three characters out of 2336 regular characters in 12 television seasons being Native American. Two of these are the same character, Marilyn Whelwin, and two seasons of Northern Exposure. One third Native American character was a contestant on the reality show Survivor, son of a Quechan mother and a white European father. UCLA's College Division of Social Sciences published its most recent Hollywood Diversity Report. This is the second consecutive report to show that the number of people of color has grown in every film employment field. Minority written and directed films were shown to have significantly more diverse cast than those written and directed by white men. Let's discuss about media and cultural integration versus cultural disintegration. The term culture has been obviously defined, but there is general agreement that whatever the concept entails, it serves firstly the glue which keeps groups of individuals together as distinct entities, and secondly the means by which individuals adapt to the group and maintain a sense of identity and psychological stability. Cultural disintegration then can have a dual impact. It can cause a cultural entity to cease to exist and can also have a disruptive effect on the emotional adjustment of the individual. There is not further consensus that cultures are static. Cultures arise to enable a group of adopt the demands of their surroundings, and as the context changes, the form and content of culture will also change. In the normal course of events, these changes are slow and likely may not have to be recognized within the lifetime or cultural memory of individuals. Thus, while there may be an appearance of sameness over the longer course, substantial changes can occur with the culture remaining substantially intact and individuals retaining a sense of belonging and good psychological health. Let's discuss about cultural disintegration. Cultures rarely exist in isolation for any great length of time. With increasing worldwide population and mobility, the opportunity for contact between cultures has increased substantially, thus increasing the potential for more rapid cultural change. In the Handbook of Cross Cultural Psychology, John Berry and David Sam described four adaptational strategies that can be employed by individuals when cultural groups are faced with. Integration occurs when individuals retain a value for their traditional culture but also desire participation in the dominant society. Assimilation comes about when there is a desire to become a member of the dominant culture and there is no attachment to the original culture. Cultural disintegration implies a circumstance at the extreme end of the acculturation process and thus is likely to have the most profound negative effects on individuals. Disintegration is more likely when, firstly, the impetus of change is external to the group, secondly, the change is exceptionally large, thirdly, the change is rapid, and fourthly, the cultural group has little control over the change process. A contemporary example wherein all these conditions are present is the removal of all of the inhabitants of Bikini Island in the South Pacific. In late 1940s, the US government wanted the island for use as a nuclear test site and relocated the island's population. The result was a substantial loss of original culture, serious demoralization among the people, and distress with which individuals continue to cope with varying success. In summary, culture is the means by which groups of individuals survive in the and make sense out of their environment. Additionally, culture provides a means of survival and nurturance for the individual. Major disruptions of culture or cultural disintegration can have a serious and lasting impact on the quality of life or even life itself for the individual. The extent of the impact is dependent upon the nature, degree, and rapidity of conditions that radically alter an individual's cultural context. The cultural integrity and psychological health of the individual and access to variety of coping strategies. Let's discuss about multimedia content in multi-ethnic societies. Academic UC tenders an operational definition for ethnic media. Ethnic media are often regarded as media by and for ethnics in a host country with content in ethnic languages. She also adds ethnic media can be published by big ethnic media groups and by small organic ethnic communities as well. Practitioner Inga Buchbinder of New America Media adds, our organization defines it most as a publication, whether that's new, television, radio, online, print, magazine, any sort of publication that caters for a specific ethnic community. And it could be in language or it could be language that reaches a very specific community. In addition to news, television, radio, online, print, and magazine outlets that qualify as ethnic media, academic John D.H. Downing adds musical culture and forms of religious expression to the ethnic media mix. Downing finds these may, along with language and dialect, act as a media force somewhere between shock absorption and psychic validation in the often fraught atmosphere between ethnic majority and ethnic minorities. Downing finds that ethnic media tends to circulate within at least three different sectors, namely indigenous nations and communities, recent migrants, and settled subordinate ethnic groups. Let's discuss about ethnic media as alternative media. Analogous to the debate over as to what qualifying factors constitute alternative media, the domain of what qualifying factors that classify a respective ethnic media outlet as an alternative media outlet is also at play. Thus, ethnic media is not a definitional default alternative media. Again, the work of academics and grassroots practitioners such as John D.H. Downing, UC, Clemencia Rodriguez, and Igna Buchinder of New America Media provide definitional assistance for this complex and overdetermined zone. Discernment of whether or not a respective ethnic media outlet qualified as an alternative media outlet is dependent upon the outstanding contextual information and should be assessed on a case to case evaluation. UC's work puts forth a seven-pronged test for evaluating the alternative media role of ethnic media in the United States. Reference has to be made to their firstly individual place of origin, secondly historical evaluation, thirdly production process, fourthly distribution pattern, fifthly ownership, sixthly self-identity, non-profit or for-profit alternative of commercial or in between, and lastly connection to power groups in local and transmissional settings. With this we come to end of today's class. Have a nice day. Jai Hind.